Hello and welcome to Calder's Calling. We are AHL News Now's flagship podcast and your premier podcast destination for everything surrounding the American Hockey League. I'm Jakob Forster. I'm joined this week by Deana Weinheimer and Zander Manning as we break down the good, the bad, and the really weird from the last week of the AHL's play. Before we kick things off, I want to remind you all that you can find us wherever you get your podcasts, also on YouTube. So feel free to like and subscribe so you can get every episode straight into your feed. I also want to thank our show sponsor before we get started. Document Doctors, while not on the ice, they can help you and your business optimize and increase your revenue and profits to a bigger slice. Check out documentdoctorsllc.com and don't forget to mention that AHL News Now sent you to them. So we're going to start off on kind of a somber tone here at Calder's Calling, which we don't do a lot, but it came out, or it happened over the weekend. Former AHL player for the Wilkes-Barre Crichton Penguins, Adam Johnson, passed away due to an accident on the ice in a game over here in England. Just a really nasty freak accident. We're going to talk about some of the things that kind of go after, like what happens next with Johnson and his injury, but we just wanted to kind of give a shout out to kind of his memory. A lot of AHL teams and NHL teams have done really nice tributes to him this week, and just a really, really sad story. That sometimes it really sucks to be a hockey fan, you know. Just a real tough thing to wake up to on Sunday morning.
Absolutely. And I also just wanted to express my sincere condolences to everyone that loved him, whether it's his family, his fiance, friends, teammates, people that worked around the teams, media that covered him. I know it's difficult for everyone. So I just hope that in time they find peace and are able to carry on. But I've talked to several people that covered him during his time in Wilkes-Barre, and they all basically said the same thing, of just how wonderful of a person Adam Johnson really was. And I was honestly touched by what the Ontario Reign did in his memory. They recently had a home game. He did spend some time out in California with the Ontario Reign, and they made him the number one star of that game. They placed a stool out on the ice, and players that played with him in the past all skated out. One of the players draped his jersey uh, over the stool on the ice, and they all just patted or fist bumped the jersey and skated off. And that tribute definitely, I won't lie, I cried. It was extremely touching.
I'm not gonna lie to you, I'm almost tearing up just thinking about that, and just the visual that you painted there. I mean, and again, just a tough loss for hockey fans everywhere. Whether you watched him play, whether you heard about what happened, or God forbid you saw the video of what happened. It's a rough one to think about, and even just I want to just take a moment here to commend the AHL and some teams, specifically the Wilkes-Barre Penguins and the Wheeling Nailers, just saying, all right, you know what, enough is enough. You're going to be wearing protection from here on out, and mandating it for all their players, and just the swift action that they made for this. And a lot of other leagues, maybe just an example, the NFL maybe would look at it and maybe not, they'd have to examine the issues a little bit quicker, but the AHL just said, you know what, that's it. Happened to
Yeah.
one person, that's enough for us.
Yeah, and that's a nice teaser for what we're going to get into later on. But I am going to go ahead and put in the show notes because I know this is very hard for everybody. So I will be listing a few resources in the UK, Canada, and the US. If you are struggling and just need a little bit of help, please don't be afraid to take some time away from social media. Even I've seen a lot of people do that just because they don't want to potentially run into the video, or there's just different discussions around this that are really negatively affecting them. So please, everyone, do what you need to do to stay mentally safe. But yeah, definitely all of our thoughts are going out to everyone who loved Adam. And gosh, it's just so tragic.
Yeah, I want to give a quick shout out, or not a shout out necessarily, but the player who skate it was. I want to, just offer thoughts, condolences to him, because I can only imagine kind of what he's been going through the past 5 days or so. I know he's been getting a lot of abuse on social media, and I've seen a lot of really, really horrible things. So I'm thinking of him, as well as Adam's friends, family, teammates, anyone who was there. There's not really a good way to segue out of something like that.
No.
But we are gonna move on. We're gonna check in with our power rankings real quick. Whose stocks are up, whose stocks are down. Some players, some teams had really surprising results a couple of weeks ago. Now we are a month into the season ish, 3.5 weeks. So I figure we're probably starting to get a little bit more of an idea of where these players are, or where these teams are in terms of the standings. So I'm gonna start off with Coachella, who, after an extremely strong weekend against the Barracuda, have gone from near the bottom of the league to 9th in the league. They have dragged themselves all the way up to, I think, 5th in the Pacific Division, when they were 10th previously. So a real strong weekend for a team that I believe didn't have a win the last time we did power rankings. In terms of other people who've dropped, the Gulls, after having a really strong opening weekend, have again kind of reverted to type. They're currently 2-4. They are 30th in the league. So it could be another season of doom and gloom over in San Diego. But I'm kind of biased because I'm obviously more focused on the Pacific Division. But I'm curious to know what people's thoughts are in terms of the other divisions. But those were the two teams that kind of really stood out to me, as I was kind of looking at where the standings were and where they are now.
So one team that stuck out to me, I'm gonna stick to my team here, is the Springfield Thunderbirds. They did not have the best start to the season, to say the least, but they dominated this past weekend. They only allowed 6 goals in 3 games, and that may not sound like much, but the weekend before they allowed 6 goals in the first 5 periods, and that they won 3 in a row this weekend. And to me, that was a bit impressive. One team that has disappointed me, at least from a depth perspective, is the Providence Bruins. I was expecting them to be a lot better this year, especially the way their goaltending situation is set up, and how really a lot of their roster is NHL ready. But they're right now they sit, if I'm looking at this, yep, they sit 7th in the Atlantic Division, 1-3-1 this season so far, and I really did not expect them to start the way they are.
So I'm going to kind of just look around, since Jay talked about the Pacific. Zander kind of touched on the Atlantic. I'm going to look at the Central and the North, because I want to get as many teams talked about as we possibly can. So I'm going to start with the Central Division. I'm going to go west to east for a change. But one team that has returned to life since we last looked at this are the Texas Stars. They are currently on, as of the time of recording, I believe by the time we go out, they're not going to be playing, but they are on a 3-0-1-1 streak, where they were, they came out losing 2. Like, okay, well, they're starting to come back into the Texas Stars that a lot of us are more familiar with. Okay, another team we're going to look at here in the Central Division are the Rockford Ice Hogs. Now, they had a lackluster start, 1-2-0, I believe, but now they're on a 2-game win streak. Their stock's starting to come up a little bit. I could bring up the Chicago Wolves, but you know what? I'm going to bring up the Chicago Wolves. They had
Go ahead.
a terrible start, and they're definitely moving down in the power rankings. Currently they have a record of 1-3-1-1 on a streak of 0-2-0-1. Not ideal. Moving into the North Division, stock moving up. I'm going to stick with my beat team, the Cleveland Monsters, currently on a 3-game win streak. They had a They kind of stumbled out the gate a little bit, but now they're on that 3-game win streak, bringing them to a 4-2-0 record. Moving down in the North Division are going to be the Utica Comets. It's I'm so used to a Utica Comets team. I just a few seasons ago had that massive league-wide record to start wins for the season at what, 13, 15, something like that. Now they're currently 1-2-2-0, and well, special shout out again to the Rochester Americans and the Toronto Marlies, currently leading the division, both on 3-game win streaks, with Toronto having a 1-game overtime loss smudged in there somewhere. So those are the rankings in the Central and the North.
I want to continue on with the North for a second, because there's a team in there that just makes no sense as to why they are where they are. I don't understand how the Laval Rocket only have 1 win so far this season, because that team is stacked, and I don't understand it. They have 2 players that are in the top 10 for points in Joshua Waugh and Elias Anderson, both of who are more than a point per game. Joshua has 12 points in 7 games as a rookie. And that's not even counting, all of the other guys that they have. Sean Farrell, Riley Kidney, like Xavier Simoneau, William Trudeau, who is one of the best young defensemen in the AHL right now. Nicholas Baudin. They've got so many good players, and I don't understand.
And they've been so good historically, too. They've been a very good team historically in the last few years. I mean, not every year.
Were they though? Were they though?
They've been powerful. I wouldn't say okay. Maybe not necessarily good, but definitely powerful. Definitely a team to be reckoned with for sure.
They're not like they're not a 1-5-1 team, in my opinion. And it's very bizarre.
Unfortunately, though, their style of play, though, it's like they rely too much on 1 or 2 guys to do all of the scoring. And if that guy has an off night, or if the other team clues in on that, like, okay, we got to go and cover these 2 guys, double team these 2 guys, and then the other guys aren't used to scoring. So, yeah, I honestly think it's a systems and team makeup issue there.
I have some thoughts on the Central I want to interject here, too. Another team to look at is the Manitoba Moose. I feel like they've come out of nowhere this year with a 4-2 record. And they've got some pretty good people on their team, too. They've got 2 rookies in there with 9 points and 8 points in Brad Lambert and Nikita Chibrikov. So there's somewhere to keep an eye on in the Central as well.
Yeah, Brad Lambert is one of my favorite prospects from that draft year. I don't understand how he fell to, I think, 30th overall. He's going to tear the AHL apart. It's going to be real fun to watch. I want to move on, though. I want to talk about we have our 3 stars that we'll talk about in a minute. The AHL does their own player of the week. And so I wanted to kind of get into that because he came up as in part of our discussions, but didn't ultimately get named as one of our 3 stars. So I want to talk about Raphael Lavoie of the Bakersfield Condors. But he has been on a real good tear recently. He is not on my sheet. It's fine.
Of course not.
No, why would he be? He has 7 points in 5 games, 4 goals, 3 assists, and I believe the bulk of those came this weekend. So in the past 3 games, he has 6 points, 4 goals, 2 assists. It's a pretty good little stretch. I don't know if it's player of the week good though, so I'm wondering if you guys have some thoughts on Lavoie.
I think what got him, or basically put Lavoie over the edge for everyone else, is that, okay, on top of just the goals and assists, all right, he scored twice on the power play this last Tuesday, so a week ago, yesterday as we're recording. Scored twice on the power play, helping them to come from behind to defeat Henderson. Then he had game high 8 shots on goal, assisted on the game winning goal against a victory on Tucson, then scored again twice more, earned an assist on the game winning total. It's that contribution towards the game winners or the come from behinds that like that the league, I
It's
think, really
clutch,
looked
isn't it?
into.
Yeah.
It is clutch, 100% clutch. I think that's what put him over the top. Well earned. I think the league got this one right.
I will say that I think they got it right if you're talking about clutch standpoint. If you're talking about like fan favorite AHL player of the week, I wouldn't necessarily put him in there unless you are a Bakersfield Condors fan. I know it's a bit of a hot take. I can see your look there, Deana. But I will say that when you're looking at player of the week, you do have to look at that clutch factor. You do have to look at the guy who's contributing to all aspects of the game, not just, oh, well, this guy scored 5 goals this week, or this guy scored 7 goals, or he had 7 assists and he only had 2 penalty minutes and he had a +4 rating. You got to look at the guy who really contributes to how the team wins and not just how he contributes to his own game. So yes, I do agree. The league got this one right.
I thought you were going to go into this whole thing about no, this other person deserved it because they're more well known and we're
I
trying
know,
to grow
that's
the
where
game.
I
And
thought this was going as well.
I was about to have a whole TED talk on this.
No, there's
But
nothing I can
thank
stand
you.
more than someone winning Player of the Week for a popularity contest. That's not
Thank you.
what I'm about. I hate popularity. Oh, look, he's the Player of the Week because I know who he is. No, that's not why.
I mean, that's what I love about, these types of awards too, is you get players that aren't popular named to this. You get some teams that maybe aren't as well covered or aren't as well known, and it gets discussion going. It gets people looking these teams up. I love it.
You get the whole people saying who,
Who?
and that's what I think the point of this league is. You get the publicity for the people. The players are like, I don't know who that is, and then you get down to February All-Star time, you're like, oh, he was the Player of the Week 5 times this year. I get you.
Before we move on, talk about some of our stars of the week. Deana, I believe you want to talk about some Hall of Fame inductees because the AHL list just came out at the start of this week, I believe.
Yeah, so actually October 31st, the list came out and the American Hockey League has announced the 4 inductees that have been selected for the 2024 class for the American Hockey League Hall of Fame. Now honored by the AHL Hall of Fame Selection Committee, as the latest group of enshrinees are Dennis Bonvie, Jordy Clark, Gary Aman, and Roy Summer. Now these are players that have, we still have some involved in the game, but some of these really go back. Dennis Bonvie played 871 games over 15 seasons in the American Hockey League, starting his career with the Cape Breton Oilers in 1993, was part of the All-Star game in 1995, stopped in Hamilton, Portland, Philadelphia, Wilkes-Barre, Scranton, and then helped that team in 2001 reach the Calder Cup finals, also having stops in Providence, Binghamton, and Hershey before returning back to Wilkes-Barre, where he retired in 2008. Jordy Clark, 9-year playing career, mainly in the AHL with Rochester, Springfield, and Maine. Who remembers them? That's a little bit ago. The good old Maine Mariners helped guide them to a Calder Cup championship in the 1978-79 season. Led the league in 79-80 with 47 goals and set career highs with 50 goals and 101 points in 1981-82. Before he retired in 1983. Jerry Aman, just a prolific scorer back in the 50s and 60s. 19 seasons of professional hockey, nearly 1,100 games split between the AHL and NHL. His early AHL years spent in St. Louis, Springfield, and Hershey, but he is best known for his 7 seasons with the Rochester Americans, including 6 30-goal performances, league scoring title, 2 Calder Cup championships. Now, unfortunately, he is no longer with us, so this is a posthumous award. Roy Sommer, winningest coach in American Hockey League history, finally getting his place in the AHL Hall of Fame. 24 years of the coach of the San Jose Sharks affiliates in Kentucky, Cleveland, Worcester, and Worcester and San Jose. I think Zander was about to stop me there. Worcester and San Jose before guiding the Gulls in 2022-23. Saw more than 150 of his players graduate to the NHL, won 828 games. Just a amazing class. If you're interested in going to the Hall of Fame induction ceremony that will be taking place as part of the festivities at the 2024 AHL All-Star Classic presented by Tech CU, which is being held by the San Jose Barracuda. That induction and award ceremony scheduled for February 5th. More details to follow. So congratulations to all of the inductees and their families. I'll be looking forward to seeing that happen live out in San Jose here in a few months.
I want to give one last shout out to Roy Sommer, who was a native of Oakland, California, before moving to Calgary as, I believe, a 18-year-old. Just really cool to see someone from not a stereotypical hockey place, especially, at that time where I believe, the California Golden Seals still existed when he left San Francisco. So it's been a minute. And I just like it when you get people who succeed in this sport just by being from like non-traditional hockey areas. So born and raised in kind of Oakland, which is just outside San Francisco, became the winningest AHL coach of all time, and now I believe is coaching in the WHL for the former Winnipeg Ice, now Wenatchee Wild, which is really cool.
And not to mention Roy Sommer, just such a down-to-earth person as well. You wouldn't know that he was the winningest coach in AHL history. Just you talk to him like any other person. He'll talk to you about anything and everything. Talk about the game. Talk to you about just your life. Great guy.
Yeah, we are big Roy Sommer fans on this podcast specifically. Shall we talk about our 3 stars of the week? Because
sure.
I have some
let's
thoughts.
Get there.
I'll go ahead and give my choice first, which again, am I biased? Maybe, but Daniil Gushin had 2 goals and 3 assists in his last 2 games. The San Jose Barracuda only scored 6 goals total, so he was involved in 5 out of their 6 goals this weekend. He hasn't scored a ton. I think he's only got 3 goals on the season so far, but he's currently second in league points. He's on a 4-game stretch of multi-point games. And he's just really, really impressing me. And I think scoring on literally, 65%, 70% of your team's goals, it would be way more than that. Like 85% of your team's goals, I think, deserves a star of the week, in my opinion. Deana, why don't you go ahead and go next?
So I'm going for a little bit of a deep cut here with mine. And I have, for my star of the week, I am going with Ryan Winterton, a rookie out of Coachella Valley, who in his last 2 games have 2 goals and 2 assists. But overall, he's just being solid for that Firebirds team. In 6 games, he has 5 points. 3 of them are goals. He is a +5, which, considering how Coachella struggled to get out the gate, is fantastic. He's got a shorthanded goal. And also on top of that, he is not really putting his team in any bad situation. 0 penalty minutes
That is rare.
0.83. Yeah.
That is rare
Yeah.
in the AHL.
Especially
It
for a
is.
rookie too.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. So him and Logan Morrison both have 0 penalty minutes and both have played 6 games for Coachella Valley. So nice stable presence there on the forward lines for Ryan Winterton. So I decided to give him my star.
My star this week, I'm going away from the Atlantic Division. I'm going away from the Eastern Conference. I'm going with Arshdeep Bains from the Abbotsford Canucks. He's had some impressive numbers this year. He's most impressive to me is not necessarily this weekend; it's his season overall. He's had 2 games where he hasn't had a point. And keep in mind he's played in 9 games. And this weekend, in his last few games alone, he's had 8 points. 6 of those are goals, and that's as of tonight. He's has a +6 rating, 14 penalty minutes, so maybe not the most disciplined in the world, but 15 points this season. So nothing to sneeze at.
No, he is. I was surprised by him. But yeah, he's having a real good start to the season. We also want to give a shout out to Adam Gaudette, who had 4 goals in his last 3 games from Springfield. He currently has 11 points in 8 games. But apart from Gaudette, I realized that we accidentally did like an all Pacific 3 stars of the week, which was not my intention, but I'm not mad about it because I feel like the West Coast never gets the love that the rest of the league gets just because it's so far away. Let's move on.
Not to mention, Gaudette started the season with points in every single game except for Sunday.
Yeah,
he's not long for Springfield. Let's just put it that way.
No, he's gonna be in St. Louis before long, I think, which is super exciting for him. I think, and I will be very interested to see how he does when he takes a step up because it feels a little bit like he's playing on easy mode at the minute. That's not necessarily a bad thing, but I am interested to see how it goes. I want to move on, and I want to talk a little bit today about player safety. We talked about it a little bit in the start there with the Adam Johnson news, but there are players out there that have started wearing throat guards, net guards. Over here in the UK, it's going to be mandated as of December 31st, I believe. I think this is a good thing. I hate that it had to come from something so awful, but I have kind of long been a proponent of more players should wear neck guards. They should wear wrist guards. I know a lot of them they have these like socks that protect the Achilles tendon. Clearly not well enough because, players still kind of get sliced there sometimes. I'm also, and this is probably a hot take, but I'm also a big proponent of no more half visors. I think full visor or cage, which the hockey players will not like, but that's just how I feel. I don't know. It's such an intensely frustrating thing because I know exactly what the arguments against it are, and it's uncomfortable, and we don't like wearing them, and we feel like we can't breathe, and like I've been there as well. I play beer league. I hate wearing throat protection. It does feel like I can't breathe, but I wear it anyway because I've taken a puck to the throat before, and it sucks. So I think it's. I hate that I had to come out of something like this, but I do think that this will ultimately be a good thing, a good move for the sport. I saw earlier some of the Providence Bruins wore them. Some of the Winnipeg Jets players in the NHL have been wearing them as well, and there have been a couple other teams out in North America that have been wearing, like a couple of them have been wearing, and hopefully it kind of takes over because I do think this is a really, really important thing in the
I
sport right now.
I want to shout out specifically those Providence Bruins players because it was literally the day after the news
Agreed.
broke. I can't remember the third person, but I know it was John Farinacci and Fabian Lysel, and there was one other one that had that. It was basically almost like the Kevlar clothing.
Mhm.
just
It's just that it's
and
the kind of the neck guards that
yeah.
the little kids wear
So it
in
would look
juniors.
kind of like similar to the turtleneck that I'm wearing now, just like the black turtleneck, only with way more technology involved in it. I just want to say kudos to them first because they did it before anybody else started mentioning this. And then massive kudos to the Pittsburgh Penguins organization that, if I'm remembering this right, have mandated it for their AHL and ECHL affiliates.
Yes.
But what I'm really loving though is some of the answers to the question of where can we get this, who has the technology, is coming from within the National Hockey League and TJ Oshie. So TJ Oshie is part of a clothing brand called War Road, which is of course named after where he grew up in War Road, and they already sell items like this with that clothing. So I mean, who better to design and kind of be the face of that type of clothing than a professional hockey player?
It is frustrating that so he owns this this clothing brand. He doesn't wear the protection though because he doesn't like
He
wearing
doesn't?
them. No, and that's what's so
Wait,
frustrating here is
no.
that there are a lot of players that are like, yeah, we
That's
agree, this is
terrible.
totally a thing. I'm not going to wear it though because I don't like wearing it, and I'm like,
Wait, wait,
okay,
wait, wait,
well,
wait.
That sounds
Then
hypocritical to me.
exactly.
I
So I appreciate that he's doing, and I know that there are a lot of I just saw a tweet about the Rochester Americans the team has ordered additional net guards along with the base layer net shirt net guard combination. Some
beautiful.
players are wearing them.
perfect.
I know there was another AHL or potentially ECHL team. I can't remember who. Basically bought net guards for everyone on the team, and then the team was like, "We don't want to wear these yet." So it's moving slowly. I think the more players that wear them, the more will follow because that's kind of how this league is and how this sport is that someone else has to be
Right.
first, and then people will slowly start to adopt it. But I don't know how this is even a conversation that we need to have.
I mean, it's like when they first introduced the throat guards for the goalies. Like nobody wanted to do it, but everyone said, "Nah, I'm not going to do it." But then Clint Malarchuk happened, and they said, "Okay,
And they were like,
probably
actually,
a good
yeah.
idea."
I do want to say, as of the time of recording this, it has just been announced. Where is it? The WHL, so Major Junior, has made net guards mandatory for all of their
Just
players.
saw
It's
that.
great to see because they're children. And so I wish everywhere would mandate it. It's the same thing as people argued about visors. And they were like, no, I'm not wearing a visor. I don't like it. I can't see properly. And now everyone wears it apart from like 4 guys who are too stubborn and stupid
Well, it's
to.
also I want to take it back to like the early days too. It's like, oh well, you should wear a helmet. At this, like, take it all the way back to that, and then
Right.
some guys were like, "Well, I'll wear a helmet." Oh no, I won't. And then now it's mandatory. And then the visors, like you said, and I think, well, if the guys in college are wearing the full bowl or they're wearing the full cage, why not just take it up another level when you're playing in the pros? Like you're already used to wearing it, or if you're playing in juniors, you're already wearing the full cage. Why not just do it? Like if you do it when you get hurt, why not just continue it so you don't get hurt again?
Exactly. I just did a quick Google. A player was not wearing a helmet in 1997.
The good old
Really?
grandfather rule. Yep.
He was grandfathered in. It was Craig McTavish, and as late as
Oh.
1997, he was not wearing a helmet, and that stressed me out. I hate that I googled that. It was made
Ugh.
mandatory for all players who joined the league after 1979, I believe, but the older players were like, no, we don't want to wear a helmet, so we're not going to, right up until 1997, which seems fully insane to me. But
Especially with how fast they shoot the puck.
exactly. And like it was the 90s, it was a weird era, but also put a helmet on. It's not
Like
that difficult. They letting the rookies go out for their rookie lap without helmets on, or like their first warm-ups without helmets on. I hate that. I hate when they don't wear helmets in warm-ups. It
like
stresses me
even
out.
the people
And
who've been in the league for a long time and they're not wearing helmets out there. I'm like,
And now people are like, yeah, I'm 18. I'm going to go out without a helmet. Oh yeah, I'll pay the $2,000 fine or whatever. We should move on, because otherwise this will be the entire episode of me complaining about how hockey players don't seem to want to protect themselves and no one seems willing to mandate it.
Honestly, I do want to say, I just want to kind of like circle back a little bit. I'm seeing also coming out that Gary Bettman has said it could take the league decades to mandate neck guards.
Gary Bettman doesn't believe that concussions exist.
And I just want to say massive kudos to the EIHL, to the WHL, to organizations that are mandating it now, because you are proving that change can literally happen overnight, within days. I don't think we need to have another incident like this even come close to happening. This needs to happen now. We only have one life, and the more we can protect that, so we can be there in days, years, decades to come for our loved ones, the better we all are to adopt those. So kudos to those leagues, kudos to those players, to those teams, and to the companies for having these items available. And again, I'm going to link stuff down, some resources down below, because just trying to do a Twitter search, X search, whatever, for the term neck guards, there's some stuff that pops up that is utterly disgusting. So please, everybody, protect your sanity while you're doing this as well, because some of the stuff that's being shared and talked about, utterly disgusting.
It's not great.
No, it's not.
Make sure you put the word hockey before it. That might help you.
That's not going to help.
No.
No.
Okay, I tried.
Again,
there's no
real good way to kind of segue out of this section. But,
no, it's so hard.
We're going to move on. Before we move to our next segment, I do have some more to share about our sponsor, Document Doctors. Is your business growing beyond the four walls of your office? Because as businesses grow, so do the challenges of keeping people trained, safe, and supportive. Document Doctors is a proud sponsor of the Calder's Calling podcast and AHL News Now, and they offer affordable solutions to help optimize your business and keep the good times rolling. They offer content-focused solutions such as training document creation, back office process optimization, policy and procedure development, and much, much more. So support the podcast and support AHL News Now by visiting them at documentdoctorsllc.com. And don't forget to mention us when you're talking to their team of contentologists. Make sure you shop and support small businesses today. Once again, that is documentdoctorsllc.com. Now, Deana, we're going to talk about the Grand Rapids Griffins, I believe.
Yes, we're going to talk about the good old Griffins from Grand Rapids, Michigan, not Grand Rapids, Ohio. If you know, you know, Jonathan Berggren. Anyway, if you don't know, that's a whole other segment I can go into. Awesome story from, what was it, last season or 2 seasons ago? It was his rookie season. Anyway, so I obviously cover the Cleveland Monsters, and I sat down to watch the matchup between those two teams over this past weekend in Grand Rapids. I have seen my fair share of Grand Rapids Griffins games over the years, and I noticed a trend over the years with Grand Rapids, and that is multi-goal or otherwise super late comebacks to either tie the game and force OT, or to take the game outright. So I decided to go down the rabbit hole and look through the results of last season and this current one to see how, basically, was I right? You know, I hypothesized something. I needed to gather my evidence. So this happened between basically last season, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 times last season. Okay, listen to how this all shook out. I was fascinated. Like, I thought this was a thing. Yeah, this is insane. So, okay, it started November 4th of last year versus Iowa. Taro Hirose scores at 15-13 of the third, tie the game. Jonathan Berggren in OT, 5-4 Grand Rapids. November 11th, 2022 against Toronto. Grand Rapids had a 3-goal third period with 2 by Pontus Andreasen to tie the game at 4. Minute of 4 of OT. Cross Hannes snipes it, wins. Pontus Andreasen with the assist. The day later, also against Toronto, Cross Hannes scores at 1950, a regulation to tie. Fell in OT 3-2. Noticing a trend here, 12-9 versus Springfield. The game was 1-0 Springfield until Alex Chiasson tallied a goal at 16:55. Then 56 seconds into OT, Jared McIsaac won for Grand Rapids. Later that month, on the 22nd against Chicago. Okay, listen to this. At a minute 18 of the third, Chicago scores to go up 7-4. Grand Rapids went on to score 3 goals, including the tying goal at 18:59 by Joel Esperance on the power play. Then Austin Zarnik of Grand Rapids gets the game-winning goal 16 seconds into OT. That was the Griffins' first 4-goal comeback in franchise history. Little tidbit for you. Moving into the new year, January 7th against Texas, 2-goal third, with the last coming at 18:07 by Taro Hiroshi. They ultimately fell in a shootout. March 24th against Iowa, Pontus Andreasen once again scores at 19:55, almost literally last second to tie the game at 3. Then Danny O'Regan, Joel Esperance scoring in the shootout to win. April 6th against Manitoba, 4 goals, once again, in the third, take the Griffins from a 2-1 deficit to a 5-2 win. The final one came at 18:16 from Carter Mazur. And then in the 2023 season, the one that made me go down this rabbit hole and look at literally all the results from all of their 72-ish games from last season, 10-27 versus Cleveland. Grand Rapids, they had 2 goals from Simon Edvinson and Tim Gettinger at 16:56 and 19:33 to force overtime against the Monsters, which Grand Rapids ultimately fell at 46 seconds of OT, thanks to one of the weirdest penalty calls I've ever seen in my life. But for last
Shout out to the
season,
fans.
yeah, well, maybe not. If you're a Cleveland fan, shout out to Grand Rapids fans. If you're a Grand Rapids player, not so shout out to your fans. But for last season, Grand Rapids was 15-4-4-4 for a 704 points percentage in games decided by 1 goal, and 6-4 in overtime contests. In comparison, the Griffins were just 13-32-0-0, a 289 points percentage in games decided by 2 or more tallies. So what can we learn from all of this? This team, no matter what season it is, they just don't go away. So you have to watch out in the third. You especially have to watch out if you take penalties in the third against the Griffins. This is your free courtesy Grand Rapids scouting report from AHL News Now.
Or you also got to watch out for if they pull the goalie.
Yeah.
Clearly.
Yeah.
Yes,
It's,
I don't know how you're scoring with 30 seconds left or 10 seconds left in the game if you don't have 6 guys on the ice.
I didn't go that far into it, but that's a safe assumption.
Yeah, especially this one in March 24th. Pontus Andreasen scoring at 19:55. Like,
Yes.
Yeah.
that's devastating.
Yeah.
Like, you think you have the win, you've got 5 seconds left, and then nope, Grand Rapids. Some teams just like to. Some teams. So there's a statistician for the NHL that I really like called Micah McCurdy, and he does a graph, and one of the
he's the
quadrants on the
best.
graph is "We may win, but I may die," and I feel like that's just how Grand Rapids plays every single game. Is like we might win the game, but at the cost of like my blood pressure, you know.
That's how I feel when I'm writing my game stories. I'll have everything all set, and then something screws up my lead.
Yeah, you got to think for the Grand Rapids beat reporters who have all of their stories filed, and then nope, just gonna tear that up, throw it away.
Scrap it.
So can I share a quick fun story about Micah McCurdy?
Yes, please.
So a few seasons ago, the Blue Jackets held an analytics conference. And I went to that. And so he lives up in Canada, and he had the worst time trying to get down to Columbus. There were all these travel delays. He had to end up renting a car, I think. So we keep, like, the presenters, it was Allison Lucan that was running she was basically the MC. And we keep delaying. And then all of a sudden, this force of nature walks in wearing a tiara.
Oh, I remember this.
Oh
Yeah.
my god.
I love Micah.
It was Micah McCurdy, and he just floats up to the stage and gives his presentation. It was, first of all, extremely informative, but it was so entertaining. Like, if you ever get a chance to go to an analytics conference that he will be presenting at, go. It is worth the price of admission just for that. But
Yeah, no,
now,
he's great.
now anytime that like my husband goes to point out a tweet or something that he said, we always just say, "Oh, the tiara said this." So anyway, but can we just discuss real quick about that that penalty? If for those of you that don't know, so after that game tying goal against Cleveland, so I'm sure a lot of fans know about Chuck-a-Puck, or in Grand Rapids case, it's called throw for dough. So you get like those foam pucks that you put your information on, or you give your information and they have like the numbers, so they know if you win. And then after the game, you throw them on the ice to try to get on the bullseye. Well, some fans decided it would be a good idea. It came out that it was like 9 fans, but it was several dozen pucks, that after their team tied it, to start throwing the pucks onto the ice. They were warned. There was a PA announcement. Pucks still kept coming. Grand Rapids gets hit with a bench minor for bystanders or spectators throwing items onto the ice. And that was the penalty that led to the overtime power play goal by Cleveland. What a bizarre way to go down.
I suspect what will happen is that now they will do Chuck-a-Puck not at the end of the game, because they need the fans to not have those pucks.
Second intermission entertainment.
Yeah, it was a real dumb move from the fans, because those pucks, like, you can track who bought those pucks,
Mm-hmm.
And I suspect they will not be going to a Grand Rapids game.
I think I heard
For a
they were
while.
suspended or banned from going to the arena as
I
well.
wouldn't be surprised. But also, let's add another layer to this. It was $2 beer and brats, or beer and dogs night. So it was a
They were well lubricated, I guess.
Yep.
well hydrated.
What's happening in Grand Rapids? We may win, but I may die. I stand by it.
It may not be from
fitting.
blood pressure from the game. It may be blood
No.
pressure from the food.
So,
Oh, well, yeah. That's
Zander, I believe you want to talk about snow.
Yes. It's November 1st, and we have snow in Massachusetts. And with that said, I think that the AHL is selling itself short by not having enough outdoor games. And as you know, as fans of hockey, there are, 3 outdoor games on a typical year, and then years with the Heritage Classic, there are 4. And I think that with the AHL, they need to expand their market, maybe have more outdoor games than just the occasional outdoor classic. For a couple of reasons. Number one, it gives teams that aren't covered as much more exposure. So, for example, maybe it's not exactly the most ideal market for an outdoor game, but maybe the Coachella Valley Firebirds. Again, like I said, not the most ideal market for an outdoor game, but if they're playing a team like Manitoba or something like that, it gives them an opportunity to play outdoors. What it also does for the team, the league, is it introduces more fans to the game. And it can also bring in more money for them to have more games like this. I've been to 3 outdoor games myself, and as a fan, they are a blast. From the pregame activities, and just from watching the product on the ice, it's bringing hockey back to its roots from the ponds in Canada. And it's so fun to watch the guys battling the elements. Too much sun, snow, cold. You freeze your butt off with the game, but it's well worth it.
the sun. I have thoughts about the sun anyway.
That's just my thoughts.
I love an outdoor game, personally speaking. I think it's a lot of fun. Is it kind of cheesy? Yes. I think it's kind of overdone in the NHL where they have like 6 of them a season. I think they should be a real special occasion. But I think they're a lot of fun. I've been to one in Minnesota and loved it and would definitely go back. Being a person that covers the Blue Jackets, outdoor games are kind of a touchy thing around here because OSU won't let us use any of their buildings because apparently it's not suitable for winter or something. But I am on team more AHL outdoor games. I think that would be a lot of fun. And like you said, it gives more publicity to more teams. And like a rivalry game is always fun as well. Like I really like that Cleveland did the Wilkes-Barre Scranton Penguins for theirs. I would love to see like Laval and Belleville or Laval and Toronto play. I think there might be some on ice like open air murder there. Rockford and Chicago, like they've even done outdoor games in California. You know, you could do Ontario and San Diego, give them an outdoor game. It would be a ton of fun, I think. More rivalry outdoor games is the platform that I'm running on.
I want to see Laval and Belleville or Toronto, Laval, Toronto, Belleville. Any of those 3 teams, any iteration of that in an outdoor game. That would be so good. I would go to Canada for that game. Just as long as it's not -40 like it was in Laval for the All-Star Classic last season, I would go to Laval or to Canada for that game. I mean, first of all, that's the ideal place to have it. You know, you're not going to be running into the weirdly warm, sunny Ohio day like they had last year. I still have many, many thoughts about that. But it's like you have the passionate fan base, especially if you involve Laval. The weather will probably work out in your favor in terms of temperatures, and I would like to see them try 2 in a season.
At least 2.
Yeah, well, I mean, we gotta work our way up. So getting back to having outdoor classics is good. Let's see if we can't try 2, and then we can go from there.
Maybe try like 1 in one conference, 1 in the other. Or
Okay,
maybe
yeah.
1 in one division, 1 in the other.
Yeah. I mean,
Like this year they have it's Charlotte and Rochester. Obviously that's an interconference or an interdivision game, but why not try maybe a Central and a North opponent? Milwaukee and I don't know. Milwaukee and Utica. Just throwing it out there.
That's an interesting combination.
It's,
We're just throwing it out
it's
there.
It's a random one I'm throwing out there, but
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, let's try it. Why not?
what do you have to lose?
A 5-hour sun delay.
Well, hypothetically, of course.
Hypothetically, a 6-hour, 7-hour sun delay.
That's the danger with these
That's also
things.
the
Like
danger
I
of
like that
playing
hockey is an
them.
indoor sport because it's not weather reliant, but I also love the concept of an outdoor game. I think it's a lot of fun.
They are so much fun.
I mean, they're fun to go to as a fan too, not even just to cover.
Yeah, 100%.
I need to go as a fan yet.
Oh.
I think that's kind of all we have for today. That'll do it for this week's edition of Calder's Calling. If you'd like to check out our written coverage of the AHL, please check us out online at ahlnewsnow.com. You can follow us on Twitter at ahlnewsnow. Please also subscribe, rate our podcast, share it with your friends, family, co-workers. We'd like to extend a final thank you to our sponsor, Document Doctors. Until next week, enjoy the upcoming week of AHL Play. We will see you all next Wednesday.